Hi, I'm Justin Koo, and I won the recent Battle Hardened Manila with Victor Goldmane. And I'm gonna do a deck tech and show you guys how I have Victor built because it's a new meta and a lot of people are building Victor a lot of different ways. And I'm gonna show you why I brought this kind of build to the event. Specifically because of the Blitz format. It's very different from... Let me explain first why I chose to bring Victor. I wanted to bring a Guardian because I wanted to play a deck that could very consistently beat Dash. I was actually testing Prism a lot before I found Victor, and I actually had more testing with Prism than I ended up having with Victor. But I ended up not going with Prism because of the flippy Dash matchup. Even though I felt that it did well into Dash in general, you could just lose random games. So I really wanted to play a Guardian. So now the question was Victor or Bravo. The other top deck I was expecting, aside from Dash, was Briar. And Bravo has a very bad Briar matchup because you can't break through the armor. And if your crush effects don't connect, then you are not doing anything unfair. The difference of Bravo and Victor is that armor stops Bravo's unfair cards, whereas Victor's unfair cards over here cannot be stopped by armor. Their value will happen no matter what. And because of that, I think Victor has a very good Briar matchup as well. So let's look at the cards in the deck. So here are the normal attacks. So we have 8 disruptive attacks that we can play in the aggro matchups that they have to block. So Disable will get the crown usually. If they don't have a crown, like Brute, then they have to respect the Disable. Spinal, every deck has to block. Debilitate, every deck has to block. And then Chokeslam, most decks have to block. Notably, all 4 of these, Dash has to block. Chokeslam affects the Pounder and stops them from using Goliath Gauntlet. We have Thunderquake, just has a big dumb attack, just an on-rate attack with some turn 0 equity with Heave, along with the Pulverize. So over here we have cards that allow you to use excess cards in your hand. Let's say your opponent only attacks letting you block with 1 card, and that card is one of your block cards. You'll have an excess of cards in hand that you need to make productive. So Rouse does a very good job of that. Pulverize does a very good job of that on both ends. So if you have a 5-card hand, you can either play the Pulverize or you play something else and then you heave the Pulverize, which I did a good amount in testing. So I really like the Pulverize here. And now here we have the main reasons to play Victor. These 10 cards over here. So the 4 block cards are the strongest cards in Victor because they will draw you a card the vast majority of the time. One of the most fun parts about learning Victor actually was looking at the numbers of how often I would win a clash versus a given deck. So like, I would look into the Dash power numbers and then versus the Victor power numbers and see what my typical win rate will be of a clash. So like against Dash, that's about like 81%. Against Briar, that's like 84 to 87%, somewhere there. So looking at that was really fun. And against the decks where you would maybe tie, so like the Guardian Mirror or versus Brute, let's say both of you reveal a 6. It was also very fun figuring out whose card you should be bottoming. Let's say you both reveal a 6 off of a clash and you tie and you want to win and you have a gold to use the Victor ability. Should I be bottoming my 6 or should I be bottoming their 6? So that was really fun, also figuring out what the correct choice should be there. So yeah, these cards are broken, they just draw you an extra card. Importantly, a lot of decks in Blitz go wide, or at least 2 links wide. So you block the first one with a block card, and now you just have an extra 3 block in hand to block the rest of the turn. This also just makes Victor not just good at blocking, but good at attacking. So you'll have basically a total of 5 cards to both block and attack with. So sometimes you block with 3 of them total and attack with 2. That's very common. So like let's say you block with Trounce. You block with Trounce, you win the clash, you draw a card, and then you block with the rest of your hand and just keep a blue and golden sun in hand. That lets you pitch a blue to attack with golden sun for 11 overpower. So that's a very, very high value play that I did a lot with Victor. Um, these three cards are just free points in your deck. This is overstated. This draws you a card, and this draws you a card, plus the might and the vigor. The might also is pretty key with the crush effects. Turning a spinal into 10 now means it demands armor or a D-react, because you can't just put the normal 2 cards, because then it will still crush if it's attacking for 10. Same with disable. And then turning debilitate and chokeslam into 9s is also pretty interesting. They have to be blocked with 2-3 blocks now. They can't just be blocked by a 3 block and armor. Clash of Vigor and Might are also very interesting in that they do have a drawback in that they aren't 3 costs for the Anothos. However, they are basically 4-point cards. So there are 3 blocks that give you either a Vigor or a Might. So they're like a 4-point card where block 3 and you get a point somewhere else later. A neat thing also you can do is if you have 2 clashes in one hand and you block with them, I realize it's better to order it so that the draw one happens first. So let's say you clash, then you draw a card, and then this one resolves, and then due to this clash, you get to clash again, and then that card that you clashed with now stays on top. So now you know that, if you are thinking about popping your gold, you know exactly what you're gonna draw. So that opens up a lot of lines as well. And then you have your standard Guardian blues. So blue 7, the 8s, and all the 6s. Notably, we did get a new addition in Thunk, which does get just random points. Sometimes you win a Clash of Vigor and it's a Thunk. You just get a random point. Victor is not a defensive hero. He is about value. You will just crush your opponents with overwhelming raw stats, as well as slowing down the game to buy time for you to draw your block cards and get that value to kick in. For our equipment, we have the standard Guardian 3, I guess now. So the Tectonic, Gauntlets, and Civic Steps. For the headpiece, this is balanced for the Brute matchup. And I was thinking of running Crown of Providence, but there's no space. I realized I had no space because I needed to put Anothos in. So now we just don't have a second helmet. So we just have to run the balance. Surprisingly, it's good into a decent number of decks. So Brute, notably, I was able to use it against Cash and Briar. And then for the weapons, we have this. We have the Millers and the Aurum Aegis, both new cards. The Aegis being just an extra gold in case your first clash whiffs is really useful. And then we have in the sideboard we have 2 Unmovable and Anothos for the Guardian matchup. Unmovable also comes in against Dory, but Anothos is mainly just for the Guardian matchup. Notably, this is Unmovable instead of Staunch Response, so that in the Guardian Mirror, if I see that the Bravo is pitching a Crippling Crush for second cycle with their Anothos and swinging 6, I can do the same with my Unmovable and still swing Anothos for 6, whereas Staunch Response would have Anothos only swinging for 4. And then we have AB3 in the sideboard, Boots, Gloves, and Lantern. Notably Lantern instead of Nullrune Hood, because the AB is for Emperor, and you want to keep balance into Emperor for when he plays Tome. You can pop your balance and get value there. So Victor really is just about raw points, and these are the main cards that give you that. So a very good example of what Victor can do was a game I had in round 4 versus Carlo Ople. And he had the Carlo Ople Briar special. Turn 0, Channel Mount Heroic, Arsenal Cash-In. And then the next turn was play the Cash-In, and then he played, I think, a Plunder Run, and then 3 Go Again attacks. And I had the block card. So, and I popped the balance. So I had 6 cards that turn to block with. And I think I blocked out that turn. And then the Channel Mount went away. And then he played another one. And I had the block card again. I was able to block and then still threaten. I was able to block out that first round of that second Channel Mount and still threaten something like I think it was a Debilitate or a Chokeslam. So he had to block. Oh yeah, it was a Chokeslam. So he had to block even though he had channel mount and didn't want to. And then the second round of the channel mount, I had the block card again. His turn was just 2 cards, E-strike, for 8 blind draw card. And then I was thinking, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that one blind card could be? Probably like a snatch for 7. So I block with a test of strength and another card and some armor to block the 8 to stop him from getting embodiment. He snaps and then plays the snatch. So he got it perfectly. And I was still able to block that out and still threaten damage that following turn. So that game was a really good display of both heroes, showing that we know that Channel Mount Heroic is has one of the highest value ceilings in Flesh and Blood for a card. And the fact that Victor can go toe-to-toe with that is a really good showing of how much he can do. And then another aspect of Victor that I realized also is that Golden Sun having overpower is very, very relevant in Blitz, where your life totals are so low. It sort of functions kind of like an Emperor finish, like a Storm Striders kind of thing, where if they're a deck that does not run a mix, and let's say they're dash, and you know they're all attack actions, you know that you probably only have to get them to like 8, and then you win a trounce, and then you play a Golden Sun for 11, there's a good chance they just die from 8. So Golden Sun was a really, really good finisher. I also used it in the finals, bit of a high roll, where I swung with Miller's Grindstone for 6, and then he ended up taking it, and we clashed, and the Golden Sun was on top of my deck. So I won the clash of Miller's with the Golden Sun, which gave me a gold to draw Golden Sun and arsenal it. And then that ended up doing enough damage the following turn, and he couldn't stop it, and then he died to his own blood death. So I think this deck is really, really good in Blitz. And if you want to try out Victor in Blitz, I think I would really, really recommend this list. The Battle Hardened overall was such a great experience, seeing all of the local communities just all in one place. 175 people playing Flesh and Blood here in Manila. It was a really spectacular thing to see. It was a great experience. I hope Calling Manila comes soon. And like and subscribe for more Flesh and Blood content.